Would changing the way we pick our candidates in Oklahoma make Oklahoma a better place to live? The mayor of Oklahoma City thinks so. Today, I go one-on-one with David Holt about a ballot petition that would radically alter elections in the Sooner State. And her essay may have gotten a 0, but millions of Americans this week heard about an OU student claiming to be the victim of religious discrimination. Today on Oklahoma Chronicle, we take you back to the paper, the controversy, and the political storm that started in Norman.
Stories beyond the headlines, connected to our state. Oklahoma Chronicle with Evan Onstein.
Thank you for being with us, as today we are focused on an effort to bring open primaries to statewide elections in Oklahoma. State Question 836 is now gathering signatures. It's got a long ways to go, but if it makes the ballot, and if it then gets the votes, all candidates for offices like governor would face off in the same primary election regardless of party. The top 2 vote getters would then move on to the general election, again, regardless of party. And one of the biggest public supporters of open primaries is Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, joining us right now for Oklahoma Chronicle. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Evan.
I've seen you talking about this, in favor of this, in many places, not just here. You've spoken around the country about the positive nature of open primaries. You yourself are elected through an open primary system here with our mayoral races. But this would be, and I think you'd agree with me, this would be a massive change for Oklahoma's election system as we do it now. And I think if you are going to do something that's a big change, we need to justify the problem that you're looking to solve. Sure. So what's the problem?
Yeah, well, it is a change from how state and federal candidates are elected right now. But as you just alluded to, it's almost exactly how Oklahoma City mayor and council elections have been run for the entirety of modern Oklahoma City history. So it's not theoretical. It's not exotic. It's something we know right here in our backyard. And I think that's a great entry point to answering your question about what the problem is. People in Oklahoma City, we just ran this poll, 72% of people in Oklahoma City think the city is heading in the right direction. 11% think that we are not. What do you think the numbers are at the state level, right?
It's lower.
It's underwater. It may not be 1172, but it's not too far away. That's been the case for my entire adult life. People in Oklahoma City love the way that we are governed here. And it's because of the way we run elections. People who run for mayor are incentivized to bring people together. Republicans, Democrats, independents seek pragmatic, practical outcomes that have a broad spectrum of support. And you've stood here and reported on many election nights over the last decade, and 71% for the arena, 72% for MAPS 4, as high as 85% for the bond issue.
Right.
Great unity. And then you look at the state level. You have bitterly unpopular elected leaders. You have bitterly unpopular actions and behaviors year after year after year. The same people in the same state are producing very different outcomes at different levels. The only material difference is the way we elect people. The entire state of Oklahoma doesn't really choose who the governor is, or who our U.S. senators are, or other officials. Mm-hmm. It happens in this closed partisan primary process. Oftentimes, the most important decision is made in an August runoff by the narrowest of people, right? This far, extreme, whatever the case, whether we're Republican or Democrat, the only people who vote in primary runoffs in Oklahoma, and really in any place, have a different set of priorities than the vast majority of us.
You're saying that the primary voters really are not the same thing as the general election voters, let alone just the everyday Oklahoma.
No, they deserve a voice, but they do not deserve the only voice. And they are currently the only ones with a voice in the state of Oklahoma. So what is being proposed is essentially a mirror image of how we run elections in Oklahoma City, which has produced some of the greatest success and governance in American history, and allowing the whole state to benefit from the wisdom of the many instead of the folly of the few.
one major difference, of course, between the municipal election, the election that you have seen, and the statewide ones that we are proposing, is that this would be, yours is completely nonpartisan.
Correct, yes.
You are a Republican. Republican does not show up on the ballot.
This is true.
It's just a bunch of names. This would keep party alliances there on the ballot for people to see.
And really, for those who have some concerns about it, that's a great concession for them. They're getting to see what people are as far as their party affiliation. In Oklahoma City, I would argue people generally know. Like, I was a Republican state senator for 8 years. It was no secret that I was a Republican when I ran for mayor. But yeah, the main difference between what is being proposed here on the state question and what is happening in Oklahoma City is that all candidates would still have a party label after their name or independent if they so chose.
Sure. I think opponents of this, a lot of times they're pointing, well, they point at a few things. One thing is they say the only place where we see really this exact setup that is being proposed is in California and in Washington State, not exactly conservative bastions in this country. And another thing I think is that
in Oklahoma City, or in Tulsa, yeah, of course, I would, if I were opposing it, I'd try to pick some scary sounding geographic area. I would certainly not mention that it's also happening in your own backyard and producing what everyone in Oklahoma agrees to be the greatest governance we've ever seen.
But I think that also that they worry, particularly conservatives, people who are, you are a Republican, you are a moderate Republican. I'm not speaking out of turn when I say that, am I?
Well, I'm a practical Republican.
Okay. We'll call it whatever we want. But I think that there are people, some of the Republicans who are opposing this sort of thing, they're wondering that what this is really looking to do is to water down the conservative brand, to bring in more moderate Republican voices rather than hard, stern conservatives in the state of Oklahoma.
What are they scared of? They can't win elections? Because I would think if that's what the people of Oklahoma want.
Well, they are winning elections right now, is what they're saying.
Right, but they win elections that 80% of people can't participate in. I mean, wouldn't they want to win? Wouldn't they want to prove that this is so popular?
80%. I mean, 53% of registered voters in Oklahoma are Republican. All 53%
obviously
can vote in these primaries. We're not keeping people from doing that.
Theoretically.
There are, however, 20% of voters, 1 out of 5, that are independent, that are not allowed to vote in Republican statewide primaries, which, as we know, it's the Republicans in these statewide offices that have a massive advantage when it comes to the general election.
Ask all those Republicans that aren't currently voting in registered Republicans that you just referenced, who are theoretically eligible, that aren't currently voting in June and August primaries and runoffs, if they think that this system is built for them to participate. I mean, I just, obviously it's built for a very narrow spectrum of the electorate to participate, and if that very narrow spectrum
does participate now.
And if that spectrum believes that they cannot win when everybody votes, that's their problem, not ours.
But right now, the practical Republican that you are, I say moderate, you say practical, sure. Do you believe, if you were in the current system, for example, you hate hypotheticals?
I reject your hypothetical in advance, Evan.
You've told me that. But you admit that it would be tougher for you to win a statewide primary.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely not going to play this game. Because it's not about me.
No, it's not. But we're talking about how good the governance is in Oklahoma City right now. That has something to you to do with it. And so, there would be a change. And so this would open the door. And I think, frankly, if I'm drawing the dots to what you're saying, is you do think that people who are more practical as yourself look to fill these solutions, that is a better way of governing. So you think more moderate voices, frankly, would probably be better for the state.
It's hard to even define what is happening at the state level as moderate versus conservative. I mean, what we saw at the State Department of Education the last 3 or 4 years, where would you put that on an ideological spectrum? That was insanity. I mean, that wasn't conservative by any dictionary definition. We need people, I don't know about ideology, we just need people in office who are talking about the economy and education and healthcare and the issues that are important. The very ads that will run a few minutes from now in this program are talking about some of the strangest, most obscure issues that like 5% of Oklahomans think are the top issue right now. If you poll Oklahomans, they talk about the economy and education and public safety and healthcare. That's what the candidates should be talking about. That's what the candidates would be talking about if State Question 836 were to become law.
Do you think this gets to the ballot? Because as we've seen, and Oklahoma has made it harder. This whole issue is being, debated right now. It's in front of the state Supreme Court. The idea of how we have made it a more difficult path to get state questions onto a ballot. Do you think this can get there?
Well,
and if it gets there, do you think that voters would support making this change? As we've agreed, it would be a big change.
Yeah. Well, as you know, at least currently, this state question has been exempted from that law because it was underway before that law was passed, and of course, that law is now being litigated in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court. So, I like its chances, but who knows, right? I mean, this is a grassroots effort. You got to be out on the ground. People are holding clipboards. I mean, I can't personally control its success. A lot of that is about funding and support over these next 2 months that this signature period is open. So we will see. But if it makes it to the ballot, it's the people versus the powerful. When you've got all these elected officials saying they don't want it, that's the biggest red flag to the voters of Oklahoma that this is exactly what we need. So, no, I like its chances very much. And I think you can see the fear for those who have benefited from a system that distorts democracy in our state, that they know that. They know that this will pass if it is given to the people of Oklahoma. And so I certainly hope that it gets the signatures. But we'll see. That's a more inside baseball thing over these next few weeks. But man, if it gets to the ballot, I think you're going to see people coming out of the woodwork to vote for this because it is so important to the future of our state. We can finally work on the critical issues and challenges that we face.
All right, 30 seconds, switch gears. Another state question I've seen tossed around, this idea to reduce and then eventually eliminate property tax in Oklahoma. What's your quick
Listen, I'm going to
reaction?
write my property tax bill here in a few weeks. I'm not going to like it very much, but at the same time, well over half of that's going to go to education. Some of it's going to go to fix city streets. Property tax happens to be the only way that the city of Oklahoma City has to fund our street repairs. Where's the money going to come from? That's the key question. Any intelligent voter would ask.
If property tax goes away,
yes, where are you going to replace it with? You can't pretend as if you can just continue to eliminate every single method of taxation that the state of Oklahoma has, and that you will then be able to still produce any of the services that we depend on. A good conservative, which I am, understands that you've got to find the right balance between low taxation, efficient government, effective government. But I'm not a libertarian. I'm not for no government, right? I mean, people want streets, they want public schools, they want water, they want their trash to get picked up. They want these core basic services that are funded through property tax, through sales tax, through income tax. You got to have some taxes. It's unpleasant, but you need leaders that are willing to say that. And again, I think it's not, I would say, it's not a completely random topic to throw those two state questions together, because a serious person who would get elected in a state question 836 environment would only propose the elimination of an entire method of taxation if they have a way to replace it.
Mayor David Holt, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Evan.
And we should mention that Mayor Holt will be running for re-election next year. The filing period, in fact, is over, and the mayor has one challenger on the ballot, Matthew Polaris. The election in Oklahoma City is February 10th.